What is up, everybody? I'm Matt Sensuni, along with the Broken One, Rob Povia, and we've got another exciting episode of Flyers Talk A2D coming right at you. We're going to talk some puck, break down a little bit of what happened between the Flyers and the Lightning over the weekend, and also preview what's going on with the Sabres, and maybe hear a few things or two about the aftermath of what's been going on. But we want everybody to get excited, get amped, get ready, because it is Flyers Talk A to D, and we'll be coming at you right now. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Flyers Talk A2D. Matt Sassuti, the Broken One, Rob Povia, and once again brought to you by who else but the doc, Dr. Paul Vidal, over at Specialized Physical Therapy. If you got any aches and pains, hit up the doc and head either to Burlington or Cherry Hill, New Jersey after you make your appointment. After a few sessions with them, you'll feel as good as new and everything will be nice to go. So that way you can just enjoy the things you do in life without really having a ton of pain to follow you. So the poll question for today is: the season series results against the Lightning has had a humbling effect for the Flyers and the fan base. Agree or disagree? This is an interesting question because we've talked about how the idea of what the Flyers are, like where the Flyers are at, like how we feel they are in terms of being how far off are they? How far off are they from getting into the playoffs consistently? How far are they from even getting to the playoffs, period? How far off are they from becoming a cup contender? All of these things, of course, have been debated and have been talked about ad nauseum by us and by so many others. So this poll question, I feel like, is very poignant at this moment, considering what's just happened and considering the season in general. Do we feel like the Flyers are they humbled? Are we starting to see maybe the signs that this is not as secure as we thought it was, or maybe it's right where we thought it was supposed to be? Robbie, how do you feel about it, brother?
From the outside looking in, it's really easy to think, oh yeah, getting outscored 12-3. I believe it was over the course of the two games at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. That could seem like a really big piece of humble pie, but I'm going to disagree because if you did have a humbling effect on you, then you were puffing out your chest a little too far for a rebuilding team who, while doing extremely well this season, still has massive holes, still has players underperforming, i.e., Matvey Michkov. We'll be talking about him a lot during tonight's program, and is now having their depth tested due to injury. It's going to take some time to solve these issues and further bolster the depth. So be patient. We are off to a great start here, but you're going to get smacked around at times, especially against the likes of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Maddie, who came into Philly raging hot, only to crank that thermostat up even higher. This team might be playing better than the cup winning teams of 2020 and 2021 because it's been a series of goals, and they just looked like the far superior team in both games. Really easy to happen, though, because the Flyers were playing missing a few pieces.
Yeah, that's true. There were a couple of injuries that are nagging at the Flyers right now. But, I mean, to answer the poll question, for me, I'm not going to say it's humbling. I'm going to say disagree. The reason why I say it's not humbling is because I don't want to say that I think the Flyers are suspect, because I don't think that's fair for what they've been able to do this year. But I would say that I think anyone who anyone who would have been saying, oh, this team is going to make this great run, they're going to shock the world and everything like that, it'd be like, well, we're kind of counting the chickens before they hatch a little bit here because, there's still a lot of season left to play. And I think that this is the perfect show of, our team is not done working on itself. There's pieces that need to be put together. There's work that needs to be put in. And it shows that, okay, we're not at the level of the Lightning right now. And that's a hard level to get to. The Lightning, even though they've been kind of embarrassed out of the playoffs the last couple of seasons, let's not forget they're not that far removed from getting to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals and winning 2 of them. We're not that far removed. The bubble was only, 5 years ago?
Yes, sir.
5 years ago, and then the following year after that, and then they got back to the finals the next year. So we're not that far removed from this team consistently getting into the Stanley Cup finals and winning championships. So by no stretch of the imagination should anyone assume that Tampa is done for or cooked after getting eliminated twice in the first round these last couple of seasons. Like you said, Rob, they're playing real well, and they may very well come out of nowhere and win another one. It's very feasible for them to do it. You can't sleep on the Lightning. You can't, because they could get hot during the playoffs and make a clear run straight back to the finals. There's very little that would convince me that it's not possible. So
No, they did a fantastic job retooling, Maddie. Absolutely.
Right. And Jake Gensel, obviously one of the big parts of that. And several other key pieces that they went and grabbed just to kind of put a little shot in the arm for this team. Obviously, yeah, they lost players along the way, but naturally you're going to. But they seem to have made up for that just fine. So again, this is the gift of having a ton of talent to spread. You can make up for it with great role players because you still have so many great major players like a Kucherov and like not Stamkos anymore, but a Kucherov and a Hedman and what have you. You still have
Brandon Hagel looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm. And Vazzy played brilliant. So again, it's like this is not a dead team by any stretch of the imagination. So I wouldn't say this is a humbling experience. I think that this just shows where the Flyers are at. They're not at that level yet. Are they getting there? Yeah, I think they're getting there, but they're still a work in progress. I think that that's what this weekend and these 2 awful performances from them against the Lightning prove. 110%. Still a lot of work to be done.
A lot of work to be done. A lot of work to be done on an individualistic level, as referenced before with Matvey, and John saying the Flyers are in trouble. I feel that the miserable power play is going to come back and haunt us, and we will miss the playoffs this season. It's potential because Johnny, that power play has been god awful, and now coming up on a very tough back-to-back this Wednesday and Thursday, facing the Buffalo Sabres, who are, I believe, in the second wild card position, tied in points with the Flyers, losing a 3rd game in regulation, which would be, this was the first time that they lost 2 back-to-back games in regulation, which speaks a lot, speaks what this team has been doing. But if they were to lose a 3rd, they could fall out as soon as tomorrow, Johnny. So your point's well in hand. But what did I just say? That this season is halfway through, and this is the first time that the Flyers had lost back-to-back in regulation, and against a streaking Tampa Bay team. Let's not forget when this team was at, they had a full court of players, right? With Bobby Brink in tow, Tyson Forrester before he went down, was really answering the call in these measuring stick type games. Losing a narrow game to the Colorado Avalanche 3-2, I remember. Recently defeating a strong Edmonton Oilers team, right? So, yes, this team is in that sort of intermediary stage, Maddie. But once you start missing some pieces and you're relying on Carl Grundstrom, who's been fantastic for what you paid for him. Trading Ryan Ellis's contract, which again made its rounds. I believe San Jose just recently traded it. So that contract's going around like a dirty hooker, but building those cap floors for people. But you're obviously relying on guys that, and it's a good, as I said to Charlie O'Connor when I was chatting with him on Twitter, right? This is good for a rebuilding team to go through this period of time where guys have to step up and play that higher, maybe a role that a level that they shouldn't be playing at, because it's just such a good learning experience, as Tocchet highlighted after the most recent game in the presser. We'll get to that in a little bit, but this is where you start seeing that intestinal fortitude, and you get to evaluate the depth on your team. And you also get to see guys, like a Denver Barkey, who stepped in after Tyson Foerster went down and showing that he can play at this level. He might be here to stay, when we all thought it was going to be Alex Bump. And, maybe he gets an opportunity down the road if we can't get this roster in full health. So, it's a real precarious time. I wouldn't be surprised to see this team teeter between third in the Metro, second wild card, sitting out. But just to be in the conversation speaks a lot. It speaks a lot to the job that Rick Tocchet has done, Maddie. And right now that the Flyers are starting to falter, man, the trolls are coming out and being like, here we go again with Tocchet. Here we go again with Tocchet. His teams fade out. He keeps superstars under wraps, right? Why not give credit? I mean, did you expect the Flyers to be where they're at right now at this stage of the season?
No. I at this point in the season, I thought we'd be lucky if we were in the second wild card spot. Now,
100%.
I'm going to say, though, I do agree, John, though, that power play is bad, and that will come back and haunt us, and that needs to get fixed. It really does. If without a good power play, we are going to have an awful time trying to fix the issue. And it's going to be really hard to be, even if we made the playoffs, it'll be hard to be competitive in the playoffs if we can't get this power play situation under control. So I agree. That power play absolutely needs to get focused and needs to get on the ship, because the way they performed, unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Let's see. Lil Griffith saying Eagles need a new offensive coordinator. Also said Eagles keep Jay Brown. Yeah, tough loss for the Eagles. But, hey, at least you won the championship last year. So it might soften the blow a little bit this year. But then again, also in sports, you want to be greedy. You want to win all the championships. So I get it. It's never fun. Anyway, what's up, John? Saying, what's up, boys? Can we say goodbye to Sam? Bring up someone from the Lehigh Valley Phantoms so we don't cook Vladar? I agree. Urson looked terrible in that game. And, yeah, Urson is just, even the most basic rudimentary saves, he was letting shit in. I was like, damn, man, like, what happened to you, dude? Like, are you okay? Is something off, man? Like, what's going on, dude? Like, I almost kind of feel like he needs to go see a therapist right now, because he is just really bad in the net. It's like, damn, man. All I can say is if Urson is not performing at this point, I think, yeah, we need to bring somebody up from the Phantoms, and let's give a young pup a shot. If it's not going to be enough, then put him down and let's go get a third string goalie that ain't going to cost a whole hell of a lot of money, or something that's going to give Vladar some type of breathing room, so we don't have to, we don't have to clench our butt cheeks when every time Vladar has to sit a game. It's like, come on.
At this point, I'd rather coleslaw. I mean, honestly, if we're speaking brass taxes, I mean, what I don't want to see is Bjornsson. Not yet. Let him have a full season with the Phantoms, and maybe he can be a pair with Vladar next season. Or Zavragan might be in tow as well, right? But to Arisson's and Vladar's defense, their defense has been screening them like they've been making a lot of mistakes. We saw that last game for Vladar, and we saw it twice in Arison's game against Tampa Bay Lightning, where the defenders are just taking away the eyes of the goaltender and taking away easy saves. And that's something that obviously is getting lost in translation and needs to be cleaned up. And needs to be cleaned up now, along with the power play that right now the Flyers are 22nd in the league in expected goals for. I'm actually surprised they were up at 22, to be honest with you, but still lower third in terms of expected goals for, goals above expectation, like any of the advanced metrics. They're in it. So what they've been doing well 5-on-5 is really slowing down the game, playing Rick Tocchet's, like style in his system, which makes them a more defensively responsible team as they grow into that mold, right? But what I think, Manny, is that they're having a hard time flipping that switch. And once they're on the man advantage, and it's like easily always about a minute 20 left on the power play before they really start getting it going.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a real challenge because you're seeing, and from what I was observing, there was a lot of not only miscommunication but really sloppy transition play, a lot of miscues on passes that a lot of blind passes that just don't make sense, and it's like we're passing the puck blindly into open territory. There's nobody there, and before you know it, a Tampa player's got it. It's like, so you're turning the puck over through blind passes. At some point, you got to say to yourself, okay, that's the third time you've turned it over on a blind pass. Why don't we get away from that for a little bit? Because it's not working. Tampa's reading it like a book, and they're handling it just fine. And Tampa was smothering the Flyers' offense. There was nothing the Flyers could get going. Every time the Flyers tried to make a pass, every time the Flyers tried to make a move, Tampa was on them. And so, again, that kept happening consistently. So you have to ask yourself, at some point, it's like, when are you going to make the adjustment? Because whatever you're doing isn't working. So there's a couple of things that have to get brought up here of just like, okay, whatever you're doing is not working. Tampa's reading your play. Adjust. Even if you have to call timeout, which is something that I actually want to criticize Tocchet for a little bit. I feel like there was a couple of times during this he should have called timeout. Like, especially in the second game. When they went down again, like they had just scored. Dvorak had just scored. And then they immediately get it back. It's like, call timeout. This is the second time this has happened this weekend. Call timeout. See if you can get an adjustment in now. Don't wait till between periods, because then it starts getting away from you. And it did. Again, I'm not saying it would have worked. I'm just saying do something, because whatever you're doing right now is not working at all. At that point, what have you got to lose? You already got smacked 7-2 the night before. Can't be any worse than what you're going through right now. And just saying.
Maddie's over here with the stick saying, do something.
Right. It's like, you gonna do anything? Hello? Am I talking to a wall? It's like, right. Are you alive? It's like, so.
Hey, I'm not surprised though. I mean, I got stopped the other day. What's up, Don? Always glad to have D in the house. I got stopped. Local 7-Eleven. They seemed to be wearing a Flyers hat. They asked for a synopsis. They asked the right guy, right? And I said, well, you're about to see them get manhandled these next two games against a strong Tampa Bay team, and they're coming in severely shorthanded. They're not. They don't have this depth yet, right? And I told them it's okay though. Like, maybe not the 7-2, or was it? Yeah, the 7-2, right? But I expected a couple 5-1, 5-2 games, because you need to get smacked in the mouth when you're on your way up and you're rebuilding. It's important. It's important that you do, because you learn from it.
Right. And I will say this, and also the 7-2 thing, I think it would not have been as bad if Ersson had been playing halfway decent. But, I think there's a little bit of that in there. As for you know, hey, what's up, Bry? And he's saying, unfortunately, boys, we're seeing the difference of what a good team is and what a great team is. And I agree. I agree 100% with that. But I'm going to say this, though. I think that when you have things like this happen, people always say, okay, get instant amnesia. I don't think that that's what you should do in this case. I want these games to stick with them. I want this to be the moment where you say, hey, you remember those 2 games against Tampa? You remember how bad those were? You remember how we got absolutely butt fucked over the entire weekend? I want you to think about this. I want it to burn you up a little bit because I want you to work on this and to show this is why Tampa beat the shit out of us these last 2 games. This is why the whole season Tampa has had our number. Because they're not going to be the only team that's capable of doing this. There are other teams in the East that are just as capable of causing problems. Sure, not all of them. Flyers have played against the really good teams very well. They've played well against Toronto, even if they haven't beaten Toronto all the time. They've played well against Montreal. They've played well against other major teams. They've done great against them. However, Tampa's a different story. So all I have to say is that learn from it. Remember this. Do not get instant amnesia. Remember these games. This is the moment where you say, okay, this is not what we want. This is the last time this is happening. We're not doing this again. I want that to be what you pull out of. So
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more, Maddie. You want to get the taste of your mouth and losing just to get to know the ugly taste and how you don't want that in your mouth anymore. You know what I mean? And you see how much it matters to these boys hanging their heads low after both games. We have one in the thumbnail with Zegras, and it makes me love Zegras even more. That he just cares that much, right? But I mean, to the Flyers, to not so much to their credit, but on the positive side is that they have faced a lot of the highbrow teams in this first half of the season, but they got their Western Conference, the West Coast trip done out of the way, and now you're gonna have some bottom feeding games, right? Maybe teams against like a Columbus Blue Jackets who just fired their head coach and brought back along Broussard back. So hopefully we can get those games together. What's up, yo? Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, Cromer. That there could be some get right games coming up in this team, some feel good games. Hopefully, games that guys can find their game a little bit easier, right? But until then, it's just about focusing on learning from your mistakes against these highbrow teams, using them as that measuring stick game, getting better. And hopefully you get a little healthier along the way too, and you can still stay in the realm of possibility for the playoffs.
absolutely. I think that this is one of those things where, you get to the point where you're a little stressed, you're a little worried about, okay, what does this mean for the season? Well, the simple thing that it means for the season is you go through the shit that you're going to have to go through in order to build the team up. Crum said it best, character building. He also says that simple reason, get overly excited, elevate expectations. And I agree. Elevating expectations was something that was happening a lot at the beginning of the season. And I understand why. Flyers were playing well. They were handling things very well. They were very resilient. They're still resilient. I mean, I will look at it this way. They're going to come out against Buffalo and they're going to play with everything they got. They're not going to back away. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that this team's going to come out with all piss and vinegar against Buffalo. I actually kind of feel bad for the Sabres because the Flyers are going to come out with something real heavy attack coming out because of the fact of Tampa pissed us off, so we're taking that out on you. Sorry, you're wrong place, wrong time. Simple as that. And you know what? I want to see it from them. It's like, okay, whatever anger you have, whatever frustrations you have right now, how upset you are, take it out on Buffalo. Make Buffalo your bitch. just like Tampa made you their bitch. Do it. Go ahead. Let it build in you, and then come back out swinging. And then, let's see here. What's up, John? Saying, what's up, boys? Even though we may not be at the top of the league, we are heading in the right direction. We aren't stuck in the middle anymore. It's sucked being not good enough to make the playoffs, but not bad enough to be picking top 3. True. But again, we'll see how the season ends. Again, there's still a lot of time left in the season. These 2 games are not fun to have. They suck. But it's not the end of the world. It's just 2 games when we really look back on it. And the good news is we don't face Tampa anymore this season. No more. So
Amen.
Take comfort in that. No more Tampa. We never have to see them for the rest of the year. And Bryce saying they're still going through some growing pains. They are really playing ahead of the curve. But he's saying that I bring up a good point. Buffalo is a team to get back on track. Yeah. And I think that this is the opportunity for them to do that. And again, I don't worry about it because this is a resilient team. They've been through this before. They've had a tough loss, and they've come back the next game. So that's the one thing you can take comfort in. This is a team that does not let bad losses get them down at the end of the day.
So no, that's 100. Yeah, I mean, they have a good moral fiber, like intestinal fortitude in that locker room, right? Like I said, it speaks volumes that this was the first time it took a strong Tampa Bay team to give them the first back-to-back losses in regulation this season. Really says something about this unit.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, as tough as it is to lose those 2 games, I think we just take a step back, take a deep breath. Woosah moment. It's like, in the moment, it sucked ass. But you know what? Tampa is still at an elite level, and they're not going away anytime soon. This is a team that could very easily win another Stanley Cup before it's all said and done. So remember the team that we just took 2 tough losses against. It's not like we were facing a lowbrow team getting the shit kicked out of us. Then I'd be worried. Then I'd be concerned, you know?
Right. Well, we're about to play it, Maddie, and I really liked what Taka had to say after the game about what the team learned from these 2 games and kind of speaking moving forward, like where do you go from here in terms of a struggling Matvei Michkov where, you know, you can't say, okay, that he's not giving him more minutes because he's been 3rd on the team in minutes in the past 2 games with 16 and 17 respectively. So he's getting an opportunity, but as we'll hear in this clip, he's skating in the proverbial mud right now, so to speak, and and he's got to find a way out of it. So,
all right then. So let's hear what Taka's got to say about all of this.
Rick, some of the guys talked about confidence that you guys will reset after these 2 games and take what you learned from Tampa Bay. What do you think you guys maybe learned in these 2 games against a team like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good hockey team over there. So, you know, it's a measuring stick, and, you know, you can't get frustrated. You just got to keep working. You got to do the proper things. You know, we got to hold on to pucks. We need some guys. You know, let's face it, their best players are very good. They're on the score sheet. There's a level of we got to find some of our guys to get to, and that's what we're going to try to get to every day. You know, so you play these type of games, and then you realize, hey, you know, I got to do those sort of things that they do. Their conversion rates outstanding, right? You know, we get a couple 2-on-1s, they get 2-on-1s, they convert. So we got to get to that level, and that's the only way you got to do is playing these type of games.
Sean Couturier said from the game management perspective, you guys needed to be more disciplined and the special teams needed to be better on a night where you faced a lot of unfortunate penalties. Was that your evaluation as well? Yeah.
I mean, the power play, obviously, we had a couple looks at Hagel's goal that they get the shot. We're not shooting those things. You know, it's a CNI shot, but we don't. You're supposed to go sideways on a block. We got to block that shot. Then our power, you can tell some guys are nervous out there. We just got to relax them. That's my job. We got to get these guys to relax a little bit.
Rick, by no means am I suggesting that he was at fault for these two losses, but it's a month and a half since Michkov scored a goal and a man net. What's your concern level about where he's at right now, halfway through the season?
Well, it's, he's trying. I mean, I just, I'd like to see him separate himself in the corners. Like he's easily checked. And I think, I know there's some reasons because we got to keep working with him, but, we got to get him, he's got to get a little bit more separation, skating away from people. It looks like he just kind of stuck in mud sometimes, right? And we got to get him out of it. So there's some reasons for it, and we got to keep working with him.
The past week or so, a few of these games have gotten pretty chippy. How do you think that the team has just kept the right balance of smart hockey with that style of play?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustration. You're going to get that. We don't want to take stupid penalties and stuff like that. So we'll address that. But you're right. But there's still some stuff out there that I like them digging in and helping each other out. But you don't want to take stupid penalties. So you want to be in the box all night.
You guys have a day off tomorrow, but then you have a 3-4 against 3 teams who you guys could easily be battling with,
Sure.
come April for a playoff spot. I guess as a coach, how do you impress upon the guys that you just need to flush these last few games to be ready for this?
Well, you have to, right? Other than tonight, after losses, we bounce back. You look at teams. I'm not comparing us to Tampa. They lost 6-7 in a row to start the year. Like a lot of teams have lost a lot in a row. We haven't, so we got to stop the slide. We need some healthy bodies back. I don't know if we're going to get some guys, but we got some guys up that can have to step up for us, and we're going to have to play a smarter game. We got some guys giving too many turnovers, especially some of our high-end guys, too many turnovers. Because if you're going to turn them over, if you have a chance, you got to score. If you want to play that type of hockey, we're giving up turnovers, but we're not scoring. The guys that I'm talking about. So you got to be one or the other. So I'm a big believer in that. That you just, if you're going to play risky, you better score. And our guys aren't scoring. So you got to tighten it up.
One or two more? Okay, thanks.
Good.
Thanks.
All right. So from what I'm seeing on that, I agree for the most part with everything that, he's saying. I will say this, though. The one thing I don't like, and I know he's saying, I know what the journalist was trying to say. He wasn't trying to blame Michkov, but he was kind of saying, why the hell has Michkov not done anything? I also want to bring up this. What about Coots? What about other players on the team that could have done something? And they didn't do jack shit. So we're immediately going towards Michkov because he's the name. But what about the other guys on the team? Other guys who were supposed to be leaders on the team? Where the fuck were they? So
Right.
it's the one thing I would check on that one. Or it's just like, okay, you're bringing up Michkov. What about the other guys? What about the other guys who have a much bigger role right now than Michkov does? Where the fuck were they? Hathaway showed up, but Hathaway's a shit stirrer, and that's his role. So
Right.
what the fuck are we talking about here? It's like immediately starting to blame Michkov now. I don't like that at all. That I didn't like from the whole thing.
It's just the modern times that we live in that everybody wants to create a narrative. They always want to create a narrative. It's almost the vicious cycle of why we're here right now, where we can have a voice anywhere on social media. Where unfortunately, some of those voices are full of verbal diarrhea, and that's just the times that we live in, right? But you make a great point to reel back to the Flyers in terms of, where's the finger pointing at Sean Couturier if you're going to attack a young second-year player like Matvei Michkov, who hasn't scored a man, okay, he had an empty netter against Vancouver, so that doesn't count as a goal. But, okay, so it's been a month and a half in a net with a goaltender in it. Well, it's been since December 7th against Colorado since Sean Couturier has scored. So there's been, some guys that are ghosting this team, so to speak, right now as well, that, it's the ebbs and flows of a season. And with Michkov, it's the ebbs and flows of a career. How often have we seen elite players in this league, right, come back their second year and struggle a little bit once the book's out on them? And you got to find that other level. You got to find that next adjustment, right? Well, Michkov's struggling right now to find it. Right? So
Right.
does that mean we're just going to write him off? Oh, he's never going to find it. He's not a talented hockey player. No, maybe he could be used in better situations, and that's an argument where okay, I can give some people some credo earlier on the season, right? Or in terms of time on ice, but Michkov's getting that now. Okay, he's not getting maybe top line, with other like more talented wingers, but he was playing with Brink and Cates before Brink went down. And that was a role that Tyson Forrester was thriving in. It's his off wing, okay, so I can get that. Maybe it's the Flyers just have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to right wing. So that's the nature of the beast. But as this roster starts to balance out, guys shift into the right positions. This is part of the growing pains of a team. It's normal, it's expected, but everybody wants to make it a fucking story. Right?
Right.
But to overshadow the fact that the team is still doing pretty damn well considering they weren't even sniffing the playoffs last year.
Mhm.
Right? Like, so let's just throw that all out the window because they took 2 ugly losses that resulted in a 12-3 goal disparaging. But, this team in the Tampa Bay Lightning, they were rolling coming in here. Rolling. So you got to look at the big picture. That's all I'm saying.
Right. But that's why I bring that up, because I just felt like it's like, so we're just going to name one player and we're not going to try. And it's like, I get it. He's a young kid that we have a lot of hope for. But at the same time, it's like, let's actually be a little bit realistic, like you're saying, Robbie. Let's pull it back for a second here. It's like, there's a lot more that I would be looking at. I wouldn't even, I look at Michkov a little bit, be like, okay, kid, listen, I know it's your second year. I know that you're struggling a little bit, but where my real glare would go at would be at somebody like Coots. Be like, you have no fucking excuse. Like, you're supposed to be the captain. What the fuck? Where was your leading by example? I didn't see shit from you this weekend. That's who I would be very upset with right now. I wouldn't be thrilled with Michkov's game. I wouldn't necessarily be ready to glare at him. I'd be glaring at Coots, though. I'd be glaring at him real fucking hard. Like, where the fuck were you? You see G pulling that shit? G would have been ready to murder somebody.
It's true.
Right. It's like, what the fuck was that?
Right.
Sorry, if you don't want me to compare you. Too bad. That's the role you took on. Gotta live up to it. Anyway.
I'll give credit where credit's due, though, too. We have seen that from Travis Konechny, who's been banged up, had to miss a game, right back, comes in as a gamer, comes back in the second game against Tampa Bay. But he's had 3 goals in the past 6 games.
Right.
And he's been contributing also defensively, where overall during that time, he's a +4 over that time, and also contributing in the penalty minutes factor, too. He maybe needs to be a little more disciplined there. But overall, I have liked what I've seen from TK.
Yeah, TK still has that fire in him, and he's been able to get on the score sheet. So I'm not as worried about TK. Like, TK's been firing on all cylinders and trying to do everything he can, And there's other players who've been trying to do that too. Tippett's another one who's been busting his ass. There's been a lot of guys who've been busting their ass for this team right now.
Good call.
They're the ones that I'm like, you know what? I don't have an issue with their game right now. They're fucking out there putting everything out there. I got nothing to say. Got nothing bad to say about it. Like the result, but I got nothing bad to say. And then Swoopy saying, is the off-season lack of working out and skating hurting him, or is it Torts who confused him, or is it a combination of them both, or is it something else? I think when it comes to Michkov, I think the lack of working is what really crushed him. I think that really set him back. I think that was a maturity mistake on his part. I think that hurt him in the long run for the season. The changing of systems, I would have to think that it would a little bit contribute, I think. But I think also on top of it, I wouldn't necessarily put that up as the main thing. I think as a player, you get used to changes in coaches and changes of systems. But as for not putting in the work, that's going to be the one that's going to drag you down. I think that's more of what it was for Michkov. I think he's still I don't think he's playing catch up right now. I think he's gotten caught up. Do I think he's gotten back to where he wants to be at the level? No, I don't think he has. And I think, again, it goes back to not taking the extra time that he should have to, be ready for the season. Is that an excuse? No. Do I think that that's where the main issue is in terms of his game? Could he be playing better? Of course he could. Am I worried? No, I'm not worried. He's a young player who's still learning a lot, and I think he'll figure it out. I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
I mean, I was going to strongly disagree with you in terms of by now he's got to be caught up, but you said it yourself. By now he's got to be caught up, but once you're behind, it's very hard to catch up with a league that's ahead of you already. And he was already going to be in that role coming from Russia to North America in a second year where okay, he was the young phenom, maybe he overachieved a little bit, right? But the thing of it is that he's also, by playing down on the roster, right, he's not playing with the quality line mates that, say, like a Demidov is playing with, like a Celebrini's playing with. And I believe that he could be just as good as those players. So it's been a bit of a victim of circumstance, I think, more, Swoopy. Like, because like you said, he's already learning the new system of North American hockey, let alone going from Torts to Tocchet, but that's not so much different in terms of 5-on-5 because it's all about defensive responsibility, and that's ultimately what he was going to have to learn about this league, right? So as he's learning that, he's going to be behind, but he's eventually going to catch up, and once he does, look out, because this kid has a lot of fire, right? I think Zegras excelling on this team kind of took away a potential spot that he could have been up, maybe him playing with a TK and a Dvorak, right? Or possibly Dvorak playing better over his head, resulting in his extension. Maybe Zegras could have been centered a line with Konechny and Michkov. That was floated around earlier on in the season and in the preseason, right? As he earns, and everything is not handed to you in this league, as he earns that opportunity, right? And as this team starts getting more skilled around him, to where no matter what line you're playing on with talented line mates, again, that will only further help MM's development.
Yeah.
What up, Greggy?
What's up, Greg? Yeah, I think with Michkov, it's all a matter of, again, let's be, and Swoopy's agreeing 100%. I would say quality definitely on top of the line mates, but also, again, I think too, we're looking at a situation where this is a player who's still, like we said before, learning and still growing and still getting the work in. But also on top of that as well, I think that as time goes on, he'll adjust and he'll get back to the way he was. And I think that it'll just take some time to do that. So
there's only one way that doesn't happen, and that's what we saw this offseason becomes less of an outlier and more of the regular in terms of a lack of work ethic in the offseason. If this is just a kid that smells his own shit, right, that's the best way for a prospect to tank. That's the only way. I don't really think it was a combination of him with the leg having to be off of it, maybe him being used to what he normally does and seeing how that's not going to cut it at this level. Right. And all I've seen him do since he's gotten in with camp was work. So that's all I can judge until we get to next offseason.
Absolutely. So, I mean, with the whole Michkov thing, I'd be like, let's pull it back a little bit, and let's not start witch hunting this poor kid. If anything, if you're gonna witch hunt the players that should have been stepping the fuck up as they're the leaders on this fucking team, and they didn't do shit for the most part. The exception of maybe 2 or 3 guys, I didn't see shit from most of them. And I'm more disappointed in them than I am with Michkov. So anyway, moving on from that, Robbie, did you have anything else you wanted to add on to this miserable set of games from the Flyers?
No, let's move forward. Let's look to the future, Buffalo.
All right, so the Sabres are next on the docket for the Flyers. And Flyers, of course, they've met the Sabres already once during this season. So what can you expect? What do you think? How do you think this team will – I mean, we know how they'll feel, but how do you think they'll execute in terms of going up against Buffalo and battling it out with them here in this game tomorrow?
It's going to come down to defense. And again, they got to learn from their mistakes in the past 2 games. They got to start blocking more shots, not, Talkett talked about it. And I referenced it earlier on in the show. You can't take away the goalie's eyes, right? You got to, if you're going to be in front, you got to get a piece of that puck, right? And Buffalo is going to be another offensive test for them. I mean, they lost 5-3, I believe, last time they faced each other. Either 5-3 or 5-2. It was 5-3. And they come in with, a raging hot Tage Thompson with 22 goals on the season. Really overall, showing like a strong offensive presence, but they're a little top heavy. So I think right now it'll be a more even match than we just seen with Tampa Bay, because the Flyers are a little bit top heavy and not well rounded with the pieces that they're missing, right? But need strong play in the net. We're going to have a back-to-back situation where it's, like I said, Buffalo on Wednesday and then the Penguins on Thursday, which means we're going to have to see another start from fucking Eriksson. And, I'm going to have to close my eyes on that game. What up, Tommy?
What's up, Tommy? Well, from what I'm seeing here, you were right, Rob. The last game that the Flyers and the Sabres played was on the 18th, and it was a 5-3 win for the Sabres. The first game of the regular season series between these two squads was on December 3rd, and the Flyers won that 5-2. So they're even in the season series right now. So, you take it for what it's worth. I think, though, that the Flyers, the way that this team has been, the way that this team is resilient, the way that they take losses, the way they do, I think the Flyers will win this. And the reason I say that, I'm not saying Buffalo's going to make it easy. Buffalo's absolutely not going to make it easy. They are in Buffalo, after all. They're not going to be playing in Philly. But I think getting away from your arena, taking 2 tough losses on home ice, you get to Buffalo, sure, they're going to come at you with everything they got. But here's the difference. You're not facing Tampa. You're facing Buffalo. And there's the difference. I'm not trying to disparage Buffalo, but compare the 2 teams. Which one's the tougher of the 2? Tampa. So.
Well, yeah, for sure. But you're talking about a team that is in, the second wild card, has been competitive, and right now both a 5-on-5 as well as a power play 5-on-4. You're talking about a top 9. Yeah, they're top 10 team in the league in terms of expected goals for at 5-on-5 and 13th on the power play. So they bring a pretty strong offense as well. Not quite as strong as Tampa Bay, but those are both numbers that, like you talk about expected goals for on the power play. Their only difference is a 300th of a point from Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'm a little more scared of this game than with the first matchup where the Flyers handled them. So I mean, really the expectation with Jamie and Bobby Brinky getting them in the lineup is more likely they're dealing with concussions right now. So it's very hard to timeline that, but it would be great to be able to get Jamie back. And it really shows what good of a job defensively he was doing, because this team has slacked a little bit in that regard, because you don't really have that quality depth guy to replace him. You were excelling well with all hands on deck. This team, I don't think, is cut out to be able to withstand these injuries. And eventually you got to become that team, right? Because everybody's going to get injured. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. You got to go out and win games.
Absolutely. I think that, but here's the thing, though, and this is the way I feel about it. I think that these 2 losses that the Flyers are taking, even though they're under strength or what have you, I think that they'll look back on them and it will stick in their craw, and I think they'll come back out and they will be ready to fight against Buffalo. And they'll be ready to go forward against Buffalo. And this is a strong team when they have to be resilient at the end of the day. I mean, again, the difference between the games that we saw against Tampa and the games that we could see against Buffalo is, as long as the Flyers maintain their composure, they don't get put in the box too often, which was a big issue that they were running into, they'll be fine. I think the challenge that they're going to have as well is Buffalo's going to come out first. They're going to try and manage and try to get a goal early. What you do is you just handle that. If you handle that and you get through those first few minutes in this game, you should be fine. That's what I think the key is. Handle the first few minutes of Buffalo coming at you and then fire back. You know, punch and counter punch. They're going to come at you. They're going to try and hit you fast. What you do is you just hold on. You play strong. Take their first a couple of tries, and then you go at them. Or if you want to take the game to them, you could try that, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's going to pay off right off the bat. But I would say take their hit, move forward, and give it right back to them. I think the Flyers can do that. I think that they can. Yes, Drysdale not being here does suck, but at the same time, there are other players on this team. We're not completely dead in the water, you know? Would we rather have Drysdale here? Of course we'd rather have Drysdale here. Would we rather have Brinky here? Yes, I'd love to have Brinky here right now. But there are other players on this team. And it's time someone's got to step up here. Someone's got to step up. Someone's got to say, okay, they're not here. They're not here. Let's go. You know, this is a chance for us to get back and get ourselves back on track. Let's do it. You know, let's not make this the moment where we come down to earth and then we start falling apart. Let's make this the moment of, okay, we took 2 really bad losses. Let's rebound here. And I'll also say this too. Even if they lose, and I'll say this now, even if they lose to Buffalo, but they lose by maybe 1 goal or 2 goals, if one of them's an empty netter at the last minute, I'm not going to be that mad. And I'll tell you why. Because if they show that they fought hard, they played hard in that game, it would suck if they lost this game. However, though, if I see fight and I see fire right back at them, and I see like, okay, they're still there. They didn't get the result they wanted because Buffalo is hot right now. Fine. You have to rebound at some point, but I want to see that fire and that passion from them. If I can see that, then it's like, okay, things are still okay. They're not dead in the water. You know, that's the thing I want to see. If they go out to Buffalo and they play like shit, then it's like, okay, if they're scrambling around, they don't know their assignments, they're playing sloppily transition-wise, and they lose the game that way, then I'll be worried. Then it's like, oh, okay, we're having a problem now because now the whole team's starting to fall apart. This isn't good.
Right. And against Tampa, you didn't even really see them have too many missed assignments. It was just, you know, a team that was just playing better hockey. You know, they had a lot of, you know, you tip your hat, you move on. And this team has been, to your point, Maddie, they've been incredibly great at turning the page. But they turned the page to a Buffalo team that's 8-2 over their last 10. Again, to your point, very surging, very red hot. And I think this is a game that you know, assuming Vladar's in net, that Vladdy's got to steal this game. And he steals it by exactly the formula that you said. Take their rush and then counterpunch. That's this team. That's Tocchet style. That's what this team has really excelled in. Absorbing that initial surge, and then as soon as they take a breath, strike. Mm-hmm. And it's been really successful. And there are, you know, yes, there are missing bodies, but there are a lot more bodies that are still present. So is it possible? Absolutely. I just think it's going to necessitate your goaltender stealing the game, because all signs point to you not winning in that matchup against a team that top heavy, but yet very offensively deadly.
True. I can't say that you're wrong in that, and I can't say that assessment of Buffalo's skills are wrong. But I will say though, if you can stop and stymie their offense, it might be real hard for Buffalo to recover from that. If they can't get goals on the board, and Vladdy's playing real well, and the defense is actually holding strong, and they're frustrating Buffalo, it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, we can rebound against these guys. Is it a guarantee? Absolutely not. Can they do it? Yes, it is doable. That's what what I'll say. It is very doable. They can still beat Buffalo. There's nothing that tells me they can't at the end of the day. If we were facing, say, maybe, I don't know, Tampa again, then I'd be like, oh, okay, we're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. But when it comes to Buffalo, it's like, there's a shot here. It could backfire, but it could also be a success for the Flyers at the end of the day. It's all up to how they come out and how they play at the end of the day. Take those first couple of lumps, come right back at them. If you don't get scored on early and you're not chasing the game, you very much have a shot to beating Buffalo in this game.
They may be facing old friend Alex Lyon too, which would be interesting if he gets to start.
Interesting. He's just been bouncing around the league.
He's 10-6 with them with a 2.82 and a 906 goal save percentage. Yeah, maybe the talks of potentially of bringing Alex Lyon back this offseason were not dumb as I thought they were.
No, maybe not. Maybe there was some truth to it, especially with how Ersons has played this season.
That's the finger that was being pointed. Absolutely. But I mean, Buffalo defensively, that's been their biggest improvement, right? Taking a look through a lot of their defensemen, a lot of them sitting in the -8 to -10 range. I mean, that's pretty nice. Dahlin specifically at a -10. So, so that I think that's been the overall big difference in terms of why Buffalo has raised up in the standings from last year, being a little bit more defensively responsible. So it's going to take good efforts. And like you said, Owen Tippett has been playing the puck extremely well, playing that calm brand of hockey that isn't typical, but makes him more successful and showing some real strong finish. So, it'll take good efforts from Tip and I expect Zegras to really rebound well. And to embody that spirit of, F you, we're not going out like that. You know what I mean? Because apparently he has no filter and I love it.
Yeah. You got to love that where he's just dropping F-bombs right there in the middle of the stadium. It's like, that's the kind of Flyers we need. Tons of personality on that. Although, to be fair, it's okay. Not everybody has to have a personality. Dvorak doesn't have to have one. That's okay. Yeah. It's totally all right. Let Zegras have all the personality.
I was having a lot of fun earlier today in Bill Meltzer's Facebook group, Hockey Hot Stove, for his site, hockeyhotstove.com. Go check him out if you haven't already. It's just a great hub for Flyers coverage, overall NHL coverage as well. They have beat writers throughout the league now, really expanding. It's a fabulous group. They're really gracious with us sharing our show and our clips in with them, and we can't thank them enough for that. But we were talking about in terms of Zegras and how well he fits here, and also the pairing with him and Dvorak has been exceptional. And the real hope is that we could potentially ink Zegras after inking Dvorak to that extension. And then some dude chimes in and goes, "Oh, I think we'd be best moved to trade Zegras while he's at his highest right now and fill in holes." And I think he got booted from the group right with that one comment.
I mean, it is an unintelligent comment. So, I mean, that makes total sense why he'd be booted from the group like that.
Yeah, sell high. Yeah, that's the spirit.
Sell high because, we're a cup contender right now. That makes total sense. Absolute total sense. That People, they get dropped on their head as a kid and they never recover. Anyway.
Again, like I said earlier, it's the society we live in where everybody can have a fucking opinion and they shouldn't.
No, as the saying, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one.
Right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of it, Manny, but just to wrap up this conversation, what do you feel has to change for the Flyers to get back on track and get a win here?
They need to, in my opinion, one, fix their power play. That's definitely something that needs to get worked on. Two, they need to be way, way stronger on the puck. They get checked off of it way too easy at times. And also, the other main thing is take your shots. Don't play the pass game. That was something I was seeing a lot of when they had their opportunities. I get it. Sticks are in the lane. There's a body there. Take the shot. Take the shot. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to hit the D-man. Puck's going to be loose. You could still get it back. No one is saying you can't get a loose puck. And get on those rebounds. Lots of rebounds that no one's picking up. It's like, where are your bodies in front of the goalie? Are they anywhere there? I think I could count on one hand seeing people not in front of Vazzy. It's like, why is nobody in front of Vazzy right now? Why are you having shots being one and done when you have a wide open puck sitting there, a wide open net, and I just see white jerseys? What is that? Someone's got to be there. Get on those rebounds. Get those second and third opportunities. You're going to score a lot of goals that way. You don't have to score pretty. You don't. Ugly ones count too.
Yeah.
They all count the same at the end of the day. Score some ugly goals. Pick up the garbage in front of the net. Stop being afraid of getting in front of that kitchen. Get in that kitchen. Do it. I think that's something that they need to work on as well, because a lot of it's been one and done shit. And one and done shit's not going to last very long. Eventually, a goalie's just going to pick up on it. It's
especially on the power play.
And that's exactly, thank you, because that's exactly what I was getting to. That power play, no second or third opportunities. Everything's one and done. It's like, brilliant. You want to know what the most successful power plays are? The ones that cause chaos in the offensive zone. Those are the most successful power plays because you take advantage of the fact you're up a man. When I can't even tell you're up a man, that's a fucking problem. That is a huge fucking problem. When I'm bringing up the whole, hey, can we decline a power play joke? That's a bad thing. Like, second or third opportunities, stop with the one and done shit. Too pass happy. I understand you want to get that perfect shot, but if it's not there, it's not there. Score ugly if you have to.
They did it well against Anaheim effectively.
There was very few pretty goals.
Yeah, be more consistent. I think with that, I think that's a big thing. I agreed with you in terms of getting checked off the puck. Play bigger. What's up, Mike? Glad to have you, man. Long time, man. I hope you're well. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. You really the Flyers will get on the right path. Still third in the Metro. Yeah, exactly. That you didn't expect it to go meteoric all year. There's going to be ebbs and flows, Mike. We talked about that earlier as well. Right. Overall, it's been a good season. They're going through a rough patch. They got guys out of the lineup, but there's things that they can help each other. They got to be defensively responsible. Not block the goaltender's eyes and be strong on the transition game too. That's something that I've seen kind of go by the wayside over these past two games very easily to see against a bigger, stronger, tougher Tampa Bay team. And I believe the Flyers, and I talked to you about this offline, Maddie, as their prospects start to come in, we get Alex Bump up here. We get some, eventually Porter Martone when he's ready, right? Some bigger body guys that aren't going to be easily pushed off the puck. But what we saw from this team earlier in the season is even the current personnel weren't being pushed off the puck and were confident, showing that confidence through the transition zone. It's really easy to lose that confidence when you're, swanning right now, so to speak. Michael Hayes going, Porter Motone is playing really well down for Michigan State. Speaking of which, yeah, absolutely. It would be great to see that kid once he gets out of college. But, I think ultimately, like, those are keys to winning and turning it around, right? And, I mean, ultimately, it's getting healthy, too. So, hopefully we can get Brink and Drysdale back in the lineup ASAP. That would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that, too. Gaining the blue line and being able to hold it for a while might be nice, because that's another thing that leads to the one and done shit. You're not getting a proper transition into the zone.
Right.
And then also he said off topic, are we still angry at the Eagles? I mean, personally for me, I was never really angry at the Eagles because I don't really watch football. So I can't be angry.
Yeah, don't let this fool you. I just was wearing the sweatshirt. I can give a fuck. We've gotten a lot of Eagles talk tonight. Maybe they saw this and thought, oh, let's chime in.
Yeah.
Nope. Wrong show, folks. No, not you, Mike. I'm trying to say it, but reference to other people earlier.
Right. No, but I mean,
you can't be mad at them. You know what I mean? Whatever they played a lot of football over the past couple of years, coming off a Super Bowl championship. You know what I mean? Like, you can't win it every year. You're not the Kansas City Chiefs. You don't have the refs in your back pocket. So.
I will say, I mean, I'm sad for the fam. I know that it would have been. I know a lot of people here were rooting for them. So sad for you guys. Sorry that, didn't work out, but hey, there's always next year. And I mean, obviously this is a strong enough team to where they'll be competitive next year. It's not like this was their last chance of getting a Super Bowl. So next year could roll around and they could be on fire again. And who knows, maybe they'll get hot at the right time and make a run back to the bowl. Who knows? So let's see here.
I know my sister's happy. She's a Niners fan. So
she's definitely got to be happy. She's definitely walking on sunshine right now, ain't she? See, Goof had 11 saying, speaking of the blue line, Sanheim has been a disaster on the power play. There's been a lot of guys who've been a disaster on the power play. Sanheim, I will say, I think as his play has been, he's been hot and cold every now and again, but I don't know, Robbie, how do you feel about the power play from Sanheim?
I kind of disagree a little bit. I've kind of liked what I've seen from Sanheim this year, both 5-on-5 and on the power play. I mean, he shouldn't be your top defenseman on the power play, right? Like that should be Cam York, that should be Jamie Drysdale. Their skill sets are a little bit more suited towards the power play, whereas Sanheim's a more balanced defender, maybe even leaning more towards the PK. So he might be, maybe playing out of position a little bit, so to speak there. But I think he's had good presence. He's known when to take it in deep, and he's controlled the puck well. And it's ultimately culminated in getting the call for Team Canada for the upcoming Olympic Games. So I've kind of liked what I've seen from Sanheim. I just don't think you can consider him a 1A defenseman. He's a 1B. Right, and this team still needs that 1A, so that might be what at Goofhead 11, speaking to.
Possibly,
so you know what I mean. But I've liked what I've seen.
I mean, for the most part, I think Sanheim's been fine. I think the team has, in general, just been really rough on the power play. I don't think it's just really just anything from Sanheim. I think it's the whole team that's been struggling on that.
They're finding their way. They're finding their way.
And Mike saying, Mitchkov learning from Tocchet will elevate his game more than Torts did. I agree. I think he's still learning. So, again, still a young kid.
I love that perspective, Mike, because a lot of people are saying the opposite on Twitter today, blasting Tocchet and how he's diminishing Mitchkov. But whereas Mitchkov had 23 goals under Tortorella last season. I think what Michael Hayes understands is that this game has a learning curve, and right now that Mitchkov is learning and improving and developing his game under Tocchet, there's going to be that sophomore swoon before the takeoff.
Yeah, Absolutely. And he goes on to say, what was going wrong with Urson and net taking a step backwards? Yeah, it's been rough for Urson. So I don't know how much longer he's going to be in an orange and black jersey, but it's been rough. It's been rough.
With an expiring contract, you could potentially see him get waived, and some of it, like the only thing I'll stick up for Harrison, besides what I said before about his eyes being taken away from him, twice during the Tampa Bay game, the first one that is that Harrison hasn't gotten a lot of consistent playing time like he has in the past. Like he was Torts' guy. Torts loved Harrison. Like he might have had knee pads. You know what I mean? Like I'm telling you, there was a love affair going on right there. And with Tocchet, he's loved Vladar, and like initially it was more going towards the hotter hand in a 60-40 share, and eventually it's turned into like an 80-20. Lately, because Vladar's got Tocchet's full trust and Harrison does not. So it's really hard when you're playing as infrequently as Harrison is. And then sometimes he's put in tough games like against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And all of a sudden you're giving up, 3 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals at a minimum, and having that mid 800 save percentage. It was the game against Calgary that which I believe he was in net for, that kind of disappointed me a little bit, where okay, I get that you haven't gotten consistent playing time, but I believe it was a low rate of shots on goal, and giving up that many goals in that was what was the straw that broke this camel's back.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you see someone who's clearly showing signs of like, okay, are you having like, this is a guy who's struggling with making even the most basic saves, and it's like, what's going on here? Because you should not be having these issues. You didn't have these problems last year. What the fuck's going on? Like, again, as much as you love Torts, the only reason why you're not getting consistent playing time is not necessarily because of Vladar. Yes, Vladar is having a resurgence, but that's not necessarily the reason why. The reason why your time's been reducted has been because you've lost winnable games. Calgary is the way to bring it up. Winnable game. And you were a primary reason. I don't normally blame the goalie, but when you see a goalie giving up basic goals, shit that he should have easily saved, you gotta call a spade there. It's like, you played like shit. You do it one too many times, you're gonna get in the doghouse with the coach. It's as simple as that.
5 goals on 25 shots is not going to get it done in this league, right? 7 goals on 23 shots. And I mean, now, this is Tampa Bay Lightning we're talking about there in that second stat, but a .696 save percentage, that's not going to cut it. And they even said during the broadcast that Tampa Bay doesn't give a lot of shots on goal, but they are effective with their shots. And boy, did we see that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that last game, even an AHL team would have said, we're good. We're good. We don't need that. It's like, that's really bad. But anyway, yeah, unfortunately for Urson, rough go of it for him. At the end of the day, he just hasn't been playing well. So, I mean, I hope that he can figure it out. I would like to see him figure it out, but we'll see. We'll see if he does. And Mike's saying, I love Zegras. He's a flyer. Extend his contract as soon as they can. They've been having plenty of conversations about it. So they'll get it done. They'll get it done. And then he also says, who right now is a Stanley Cup favorite for the West and East at the moment? I say Colorado and Montreal. Whew! Montreal going on a tear? Okay. Interesting. I mean, I give credit to Montreal. They're a wild team, So I'll give you but I think that's a little bold. I don't know how you feel about that one, Robbie. A little bold for the Montreal?
Well, not if they have to play the Flyers, because apparently, just like Tampa Bay's got our number, we kind of have their number. But I'm impressed with what I saw from this Tampa Bay team. I think don't sleep on Carolina. That's right back there, leading the Metropolitan with 60 points, and not having Florida to contend with, at least at this juncture. That's been their Achilles heel. So I think I'm going to go with Carolina and Colorado. And no, you know what? I'm not going with Colorado, because Colorado, chances are, is going to get the President's Trophy, which means they will not be in the Stanley Cup Finals. So I'm going to go Carolina Edmonton, which would be a rematch of Chris Pronger, I believe, back in the day
Yes.
when he was on the losing end
Yep.
before he went to Anaheim, and Edmonton will win it this time.
Okay. All right. So you see Edmonton redeeming themselves from
Not really.
2006. Okay.
It's too early, but they got to win it sometime for McDavid, right? I'm gonna keep on picking it until it comes true.
I would hope so. I mean, you would also hope for the same for the Leafs and Matthews, right? I mean, but it just
Yeah.
seems unlikely, especially on their part. But anyway, so anyway, though, I'm not sure yet, Mike. I mean, I'll get back to you once we've had the Olympic break and we're getting closer to the playoff time. I think I'll have more of an idea of that then. But anyway. So with that, that'll do it for this edition of Flyers Talk A2D. We thank everybody for joining us once again. We're brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, the Dr. Paul Vidal. Any aches and pains, go to him. Until next time, guys, we will see you. We hope that everyone stays safe and stay healthy out there. Do one quick check here to see if we got a game to live react to. No, not next week. They will be in between. So Monday and Wednesday once again for the Fly Guys. So while we won't have a game to react to, we will have a game to review and a game to preview, because the Flyers will be facing off with the Golden Knights on that Monday and the Mammoth on that Wednesday. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Flyers handle those buildings out there in the West. But that's next week. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, everyone. Peace and love. And you know what? Let's go Flyers. Let's see them beat Buffalo tomorrow.